Hello, class. Today I'm going to be presenting my critical assignment for Kines 562. So for this first slide, we're going to talk about the health and movement assessment that I chose to incorporate in my program. Both are fairly commonly used in any kind of fitness-related study. So as a part Q, for my first one, according to Duncan and colleagues, PARQ is a valid instrument that provides additional screening to reduce the number of individuals classified as high risk who may benefit from physical activity and need to obtain additional medical clearance to participate. Also, it is important to assess participants' level of risk regarding their ability to safely participate in and increase their level of activity. I know it's a lot of words, but basically, just to condense that all, the PARQ is a medical history questionnaire. So, with that, it's a really good indicator to tell both parties whether or not this participant or this client should participate in this physical activity that you're going to have them do. Because one, it could tell whether or not the participant is going to be, whether or not these exercises are going to be beneficial to their health or detrimental. And so it's very straightforward, it's very efficient, and that's why I chose to incorporate it in my program. And then we also have the FMS, which, according to Chang and colleagues, is designed to identify motion deficits and body asymmetry and can assess general musculoskeletal conditions to predict injury risk. And so basically, the FMS is a really good tool because one, you get to see the client perform movement that may be similar to the movement that you may have them be doing in your study. Um, and you also get to see what they can and can't do. Like for example, if the client is performing a squat and they can't go all the way down, they can't get their quads to be exactly parallel with the ground. Um, it's a good indicator to tell you like, oh, maybe I should either take away all the squatting exercises in my program completely, or you can just throw in a plate and have them rest their heels on top of that so that they can get into a deeper squat, because that could be due to a lack of range of motion in their ankle. And so with that being said, my client didn't really have any red flags when performing the FMS, because one, she has an athletic background. She was on track and field during high school, and she is very physically active to this day. She works out, if I put a number on it, probably around 4 days a week, just whenever she can. So yeah, like there weren't any um, discrepancies when she did each test in the FMS. And so, with that being said, we go to our next slide, which is periodization. And I chose to form my program around a linear periodization model, because my first mesocycle focuses on muscular endurance, and then my second mesocycle focuses on muscle hypertrophy. And so you can already tell that it was really easy to transition from endurance to hypertrophy because one, linear is a gradual progressive mesocycle, and it increases in intensity over time. And so you can already tell that endurance is really high reps with lower intensity. And you'll see in my program when I show you later that we start with a 45% rep max. And so again, it was just super easy to transition from endurance to hypertrophy because hypertrophy focuses on more lower reps but higher intensity. So again, with that linear influence, it was really easy to increase the intensity over time because my goals were kind of geared towards that. And so to be more specific, I split up my exercises with through the push pull leg split, which if some of you guys don't know, we do all push exercises on one day, and then the following day we do all pull exercises, and then the following day we do all leg exercises. And with that, you are really training each muscle group twice a week, because according to a study conducted by Schoenfeld and colleagues, training each muscle group twice a week has been shown to be optimal for muscle growth, as well as providing enough recovery time to benefit from each resistance training day. And so, with that being said, for example, if you're doing all your push exercises on one day, you're really getting 3 days of recovery from that, because with this split, you're doing different muscle groups each day. And so, like I said, you're getting about 3 days of rest from after doing all push exercises. Then it's pull, leg, recovery, and then push again. So really getting 3 days of recovery, which is very beneficial to, one, get all reap all the benefits from the exercise or from that training day, and then also giving the body enough time to recover, properly recover, and get prepared for the next training session. And so that's why I chose to do that split. And then to get more in depth, I chose to do no more than 10 sets per muscle group per session because, again, according to Schoenfeld and colleagues, they conducted another study and found that it tested the relationship between weekly resistance training volume and increases in muscle mass, and found that the optimal number of sets for any given muscle group within a training session is around 10 sets. And as you can see, let's go ahead and see my program. I start off the first week around 8 sets per muscle group because the seated shoulder press and the dumbbell lateral raise are both geared towards the shoulders, and you can see 4 plus 4 is 8. I wanted to first make sure that safety is the number one priority, and I didn't want my client right off the bat going 10 sets for each muscle group because although she is pretty experienced in resistance training, I just wanted to make sure that she's slowly being introduced to all these exercises at once. So again, just kept it around 8, and then I worked my way to 10 sets near the end of the program. And then in regards to repetition, another study conducted by Schoenfeld once again and colleagues found that the optimal rep range for muscular endurance is 13 and above, and then the optimal rep range for muscular hypertrophy is between 6 and 12. And then I later found out that this was more geared towards power movement and like strength movement. So I did have to make some changes to my program prior to this presentation. I still kept the rep range around 15 to 20, but I did increase the level of intensity from it was before was 30%. Now I bumped it up to 45%, and then near the end of the first mesocycle, we ended with 75%, just so that it's an easy transition into my second mesocycle, which is hypertrophy. Because again, 30% was relatively low, so increasing it by 15%. Was a pretty good increase, and then also keeping that rep range from 15 to 20, just so that again, 20 I feel like is a good number, because I don't want to have my client performing more than 20 because again, that could lead to injury, which I definitely don't want. So 15 to 20 was a good number for me. And then also because one of my goals or one of my clients' goals was to gain more lean muscle mass as opposed to just muscle mass in general, I incorporated a 2-mile run with core exercises every other rest day. Because one, I didn't want to do every rest day because then she'd be working out pretty much nonstop for 8 weeks. So I wanted to have at least one day every 2 weeks to be or one day every other rest day, if that makes sense, to be just full recovery, and then the other recovery day is the 2-mile run because again, running is pretty beneficial towards losing body fat, overall body fat. So that's where the lean aspect comes from. Because again, hypertrophy is good for muscle mass, but we want to make sure that it's lean. So incorporating the 2-mile run with increased intensity over the 8-week program was good to get that goal. Okay, and then the next slide is the exercise techniques. So that my client struggled with was the underhand barbell row for the upper body movement and the deadlift for the lower body movement. And so let's go ahead and these videos. So for this one, you already I'm just going to show these frames and explain it, but you can already tell that for the deadlift, her back was very rounded, especially up here, and she basically lifted up from this position, which can cause lower back injury. Definitely didn't want, so I had her correct it. I corrected it for her, so I told her to bring her butt down and bring the torso up, which is what she did. And you can already tell from this angle it is a lot better. It is still a little of hyperextension, so it wasn't perfect, but it definitely was an improvement from her last time doing it. Um, and then so for the underhand barbell row, the only problem with this was the rep range. We had her do five repetitions, and this was a relatively new exercise that she was doing. So she struggled near the end, and because of that, her form kind of decreased, and her triceps weren't exactly parallel with the ground. Her knees weren't as bent, and she was bringing the bar more towards her abs rather than her the bottom of her torso, which would be up here. So I had, I corrected that, and you can already tell the triceps is already a lot more parallel, not more, but significantly parallel with the ground, and she's bringing that barbell at the correct to the correct spot, which is, and the knees were a little bit more bent, which was again not perfect, but a little improvement from last time. And so those were the exercise techniques I chose to focus on. And last but not least, we have application and faith integration. So the three that I chose was Hebrews 6:10, which is God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. And then Philippians 2:4, not looking for your own, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. And last but not least, Proverbs 3:27, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is when it is in your power to act. And the overall theme for all three of these was the fact that, I'm gaining all of this information, I'm gaining all of this experience from my undergrad, which was at Cal State Fullerton, and now in this grad program at CBU. I'm gaining all this information, and I shouldn't be withholding it to myself. Rather, I should be applying it to real life experiences and people who actually need it. Which, for example, like my grandma, she has a lot of lower back injuries or lower back issues, and so I've been working with her and making sure that we relieve that kind of pressure from her back. So I've been having her sleep with elevated feet. I've been applying heat and providing some massage just so that it relieves some of the back pressure. Just because I gained some of that experience from schooling, and so I just want to make sure that I'm using this information um, for others and not just for my own benefit. And again, I'm also working at a place where I get to perform and exercise all of this new information because I work as a lift tech in a hospital, and so I get to teach and coach the nursing staff how to properly, use their body to transport a patient from bed to bed or bed to chair or anything like that. So we eliminate the amount of injuries for both the patient and the nursing staff. And so it's really cool to be able to use this information I'm learning from these programs towards life experiences. And so that's why I chose these three. And that is my critical assignment presentation. Thank you for watching. And yeah,